right? And this week is forbidden colors. Yeah, so we're going to get into some of the elements of art over the next 6 weeks. I have this course sort of set up into sort of 6-week segments where we'll do like our first 6 weeks was just exploring where we are as artists, what are some of the motivations behind how we have or have not been creating, and just sort of like refamiliarizing yourself with where you are right now as an artist and where you would like to go. We talked about goals, things that you want to sort of see for yourself, regardless of what it is. If your only goal is just to be able to create art and have fun, that's legitimate. So how do we get everything else out of the way, so that you can create and have fun, right? Your goals are your goals, and they're not to be judged or anything. It's just a matter of like knowing this is what I want to do. I'm moving forward. So that was our first 6 weeks. Moving into the next 6 weeks, we're going to talk about things, sort of elements of art that maybe things you hadn't even thought about with regards to color, texture, shape, size, medium, like what you use. Is it watercolors? Is it acrylics? Why have you stayed away from oils? Maybe why you never tried textile art. Oh, I like three-dimensional art, but never knew if I could do it. Things like that. So it's like discovering your tools, because your tools are the language that you use to image your stories. As visual artists, we're really we're putting a number of the elements of art together so that we can create a visual dialogue that when we're not there, our piece is standing in a gallery, it may be hung on a wall, it may be in our home, we've given it to a friend, and that image has its story that it tells, but it tells it through the elements of art. It tells it through color, texture, and the various things that we put, pattern that we put on that particular piece of art. So the first one is color. Now, when I discovered this about forbidden colors, it was years ago. I was teaching and I was working on a class, a creativity class that for some of my 4th-year students. And we were, I really wanted to open them up to all the elements of art, because I found that even though they had learned about them and what have you, they weren't using, it just looked like they had these limited choices. Oh, I only like to work with squares, and I'm only going to use these colors, and I only do this. And I'm thinking, that can't be good, because you're not using the total amount of tools that are available to you to tell a story. That's like we want to communicate to someone and we have all the letters in the alphabet, but we choose to only use 12 of them. Okay, so it's going to severely limit how you communicate. So if we have this whole bounty of elements of art and we're only using certain pieces of it and we don't even realize that we're not using all of them, then that's really severely hampering and limiting how you tell your stories. So for me, the first time that I, encountered this, I'm thinking that I'm helping my BFA students, being a better professor, blah, blah, blah. And so I go down the road of just reading a lot of books on creativity, on the elements of art. I go back and look at, Joseph Albers, elements of color. I go back and I'm looking at a lot of Modigliani and Mondrian and all these early colorists, and even down into the later, schools, Jackson Pollock and people from the Washington Color School. And I start thinking about how I was not using all of my colors. There were colors that I just wouldn't go to. And when I saw them, my hand would just skate over them and I picked something else. And so I took myself through the same exercise that I'm taking you guys through. It's in the email that you probably already read it. And so I took myself through this process. And what came up for me was, the first thing that came up for me was I had a visceral reaction to the color pink. Visceral. I mean, I realized I was not using pink at all, because for me, pink was girly, pink was weak, pink was, it just had so much gender identity on it that, girls wore pink, boys wore blue, this kind of thing. And it was like Barbie doll and babies, It was all of that stuff that I just didn't identify with. I just didn't, as I was growing up, as a young kid growing up. I found that I was more of a tomboy. I just saw the world differently. I created differently. I didn't like to be put in a box. Even when I was younger, I just did not like to be put in a box. So don't just automatically buy me something pink because I don't want to wear it, just because. And so that had carried on into my adult life. So as I'm doing this, I was in my late 20s around this time, and I started discovering like, whoa, I'm still feeling this way about pink. Now here I'm a grown woman, you know, I'm taking care of myself. I've you know, I've been around the world and back, like they said, you know, went to school in Europe. And I mean, had well been taking care of myself. By this time I'm married. And I'm still having these, you know, this reaction to the color pink as if I was still 7 years old. You know, so I had this emotional immaturity about the color pink. And when I was able to look at it by doing exactly what I'm having you guys do this week, asking myself questions, you know, then I realized pink hadn't done anything to me. I mean, like, I just didn't like it because I was having this visceral reaction to it. But when I really start looking at the color and working with it, it works so beautifully in my color palettes. And that's why I put some examples in this email of some of the color palettes. These were colors I enjoyed working with, but I wouldn't put pink in. And if you look at these palettes without pink, they don't work as well as when you put pink in them. And so that is when I started embracing pink. I love pink now. I use it a lot in my work. I don't wear it so much, but I'm not opposed to wearing it. But certainly as an artist, when we're trying to communicate our stories, not using certain colors are important. And even if I felt that pink was girly and which now I don't have that same association with it after years now of using it. And pink is so many things to me. It's such a powerful color actually now. But even if I still thought that, why wouldn't I use it when I want to communicate that kind of feeling, right? It's like, it doesn't make sense not to. Another color that I just don't care for are like those browns, like, you know, those browns that when you actually accidentally mix colors together and you get that really icky brown. I still do not like that color, right? I like browns, and there are browns that I mix that I do like, but it's that weird color. And it reminds me of every time when I was a kid and I would be in art class painting, you know, you use the purple, you use some yellow, a little green, all of a sudden you make it'd be the terrible brown. And it still reminds me of that. But what a powerful color to use when I want to communicate that, right? So at the end of it all, it's like selecting, even if I have a visceral reaction to a color, even if you have a visceral reaction to a color, like even when you go through this whole process and there's certain colors you still do not like, at least now you know why you don't like them. You have a different relationship to them. And so therefore, when you're working and you're imaging a story, that color may be appropriate to use to communicate that exact feeling that comes up for you when you use it. So that's what this is all about. So, you know, colors are definitely about emotions. And it's interesting because colors is one of the primary things that is used in our culture to kind of control us. Yet they're not talked a lot about. I first discovered that when I was in my graphic design program. And I was doing logo and logo design and things like that. And found out that, you know, fast foods use orange because orange is like a little unsettling. So you sit down, you eat, and you go. So that's why they use orange. There's other colors that, like, you know, your blues and your greens are designed to calm you down. The dentist's office. Why do you think dentist's office are always painted like that blue, that gray blue? Because it calms you. And because most people have this sort of visceral reaction having to go to the dentist. So they use these kind of colors because they know they're calming. So we're being marketed to all the time with the use of colors. And as artists, that's something that we get to pay closer attention to because colors are powerful in telling stories and in creating certain emotions and in sort of controlling the narrative, the visual narrative. we as artists really become more clear on our use of color because it's being used all around us. The first is color that's subliminal. The second is a lot of the subliminal sort of messages and languages and sound and toning that's put in, you know, commercials and things like that. Those tones and frequencies also help to that's why, you know, sort of like classical music is very calming. Those concertos, the way they're composed, are composed of frequencies that calm us, that are very soothing, you know, that kind of thing. So color and then sound really control our world, and we're marketed too heavily around these two things. So to be able to understand that as artists, we really get to delve into colors and really have a better understanding about how colors make us feel. How are we limiting ourselves to colors? Get in there this week and dig into those colors you just hate. Paint with them. Like, try to paint an apple. Like, one time when I was dealing with this, I would just pick one color. Like, I picked pink and I painted apples with pink. Then I picked painted apples with brown. Just pick a simple object that you can just paint with your eyes closed. And then paint it with this one color. Horses, I used to paint horses all the time. So horses was one of them I used because I could just paint a horse with my eyes closed. So I would just take brown and I would try to mix with a little bit of white, mix it with this and mix it with that, and but only use brown. And I would use a little bit of white or black to make it light or dark. You didn't have to really make it darker, but you know what I mean. And but don't use any other color. And just really play with that color and let that color reveal itself to you. So I'm just suggesting this week, just get those forbidden colors, the ones you just hate that's in your palette. If you don't have a lot of paints, just mix up some icky colors. Just, you know, like put some colors together and look at them like, oh, these are terrible, and play with them. You'll be surprised what comes up with them, because sometimes that's how I found my favorite color of Celadon, because I was playing with greens, and I'm not that crazy about like that sort of grass green. It's okay. I don't really use it a lot. So I was trying to make it more Celadon, and I was putting yellow in it. And no, I was actually kind of just trying to make it a different color. I think I was trying to make it lime, and Celadon popped up. I'm like, oh my God, that's how you make Celadon? From yellow and the green, and yeah. So yeah, and that's how I discovered my favorite color of Celadon, was kind of playing with the green that I didn't like and trying to make it another color. So play with colors that you don't like, because you'd be surprised how you will find and mix up colors that you really do like as a result of it. So let's see, what else do I have as my notes here for you guys? So the other thing that I want to say, what we'll be doing the next 6 weeks as we're dealing with this, we're doing a lot of practicing. You know, if you've ever studied the instrument, any instrument, you know that you got to practice the guitar, practice the piano. No one thinks anything of like practicing an instrument. Or if you sing, you can sing naturally, but don't you still have to have voice coaching and, you know, sing scales and practice your voice and make it stronger and work on your breathing and all that stuff. Yeah. So one artist was that sort of one visual artist, that one sort of category where people don't think you have to practice or something. I mean, I meet a lot of artists who really don't think about the fact they have to practice. They think, oh, I know how to draw. I know how to do this. I know how to do that. No, they may sketch a lot or do little things like that, but they don't think about the actual idea of practicing and exploration. And what I learned from my years of art journaling is that's exactly what you have to do. We have to practice, because in the practicing, we discover things, we sharpen our skills, the things we're good at, we get better, the things we're not so good at, we get to push it, you know, just playing every day. That's why I love this opportunity for Art Mythos and to work with you guys in this membership class, because this is what I do. I journal all the time, and it's my way of playing and practicing. It's like journaling is like my scales. If you think about it as a musician, and as a kid and growing up, my dad was a musician, and we all had to pick an instrument. Mine was the clarinet. My sister's was the piano and the flute, and my brother's was saxophone. So it was no option in my dad's house. You had to learn an instrument. And I remember practicing my scales, and, you know, all I ever wanted to do was just play a darn song. Why do all this practicing the scales, you know? But you had to, so that you could be better at it when he started teaching us a song. So just realize that the opportunity to art journal is all about just practicing and having fun and enjoying yourself and making discoveries. And I hope that that's how Art Mythos is starting to shape your thinking. You just guys, you're just seeing, you're playing, you're having a good time, you're making discoveries. Let this just be a year of discoveries. I could take you through so many of these types of sort of adventures. When I first designed this class, I just sat down in the sitting and I think, okay, how many things can I talk about? Can I talk about a year's worth of stuff? And in one sitting, when I sat down, I think I came up with 70 something topics, and I only needed, what, 56. So, you know, yeah, there is so much to discover as an artist, and I'm constantly discovering every day that I do something new, something else comes up for me. And it just adds to and it enriches my my experience as an artist and what I get to share and you know, put out there. So that's basically it for Forbidden Colors. I wanted to have this little quick vlog, so I want you guys to understand exactly what is on my mind. I've written it there, so I think it's pretty clear. But I wanted you just to understand from my own experience, you know, what I went through when I first discovered this. And a lot of people love pink. And so you probably think, pink, Robin, you know, but yeah, pink, that was my color. And since then, I've learned a lot of others. But yeah, let's make this week's dialogue be about color and exploring it. Use it in your jelly plates, put it in your journals, really play with it, and then drop your discoveries in our Facebook group. I'm looking forward to hearing what is going on for you guys when you start discovering this. We're going to have a lot of fun this week. So again, thanks a lot. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I'm having an enjoyable time. You guys are just, when I look in our Facebook group and I see the things that you write and the pictures in your post, I get excited. This is so much fun for me. So I hope that it is for you as well. All right. Bye-bye. Love you guys. And we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye-bye.